Kids, I'm going to tell you an incredible story. The story of how I met your mother. This is how it all began, and it's led us here. The right place at the right time. It's last call at MacLaren's pub. Welcome everybody to a special edition podcast, or rather a conference call without the beer, for FanboysAnonymous.com, where the topic at hand is a retrospective look at the critically acclaimed television series, How I Met Your Mother. I am your host for this evening's festivities, Tony Mango, and I'm joined on the mic by a panel of fanboys of the show from the Dace Man Show here at Mega Powers Radio. Have you met Chris Dace?
Hey, Dace-tacular Nation, what's up?
We also have another fanboy here. Have you met Ronnie Brown?
Hey.
We have a fangirl here. Have you met Jamie Cifuentes?
Hi.
And we have the person who brought this all together. Have you met Robert DeFelice?
Hello.
And we also have you guys, and that's something that I want to bring up right now for anybody who does not know how these things work. We're going to keep this kind of loose and bounce around between different topics, and if there's something that you want to bring up and talk about, you can call into the show by using the Skype icon or dialing 760-512-7247, or that other number that we have for some reason popping up there. I don't really know why we have that, but it does work. So you can use that if you're interested in calling with that number as well. If you run into a situation where we have a lot of callers, we're unfortunately going to have to limit the time that people can talk. So when we have to cut your call off, we're going to lemon law you. So don't take that too personally to heart. But let's get started, shall we? I have one question that I want to pose to you guys that I need to know the answer to immediately. Seriously, what kind of a fake name is Cook Poo? So, obviously that's not how we're going to actually start here. That would have been a horrible way to start off the whole podcast. But one thing I want to do before we get into doing the retrospective kind of stuff is just go around in a circle here and not do a circle of screaming. Or is it a chain of screaming?
It's a pyramid, isn't it?
Pyramid.
What we're going to do is we're going to talk about what we think is going to happen tomorrow night on the show. Just very generalized, and we're going to pick it back up a little bit later on and go more deep into the discussion. But do you guys think this is going to be one of those shows where everybody watches the finale and they're disappointed? Or do you think this is finally going to be one of those TV series like a Breaking Bad or a Seinfeld to some people, though some people kind of disagree about that, where we're all going to be satisfied at the end? I'll start with you, Dace, since you were the first introduced. Do you think this is going to be a good finale, or we're going to be disappointed?
It's kind of tough because, I didn't want to build it up too much in my head, so I've been not thinking about it since Monday night. But it's going to tie up a lot of loose ends, and it's going to do it in the grand fashion way that they only can. So like I said, I haven't been trying to think about it too much because I did this with Lost, and I freaking hated the Lost ending. So I'm just going to sit back, enjoy the ride, and I'm going in as a blank slate without too much overthinking because I don't want to build it up in my head.
What about you, Ronnie?
I agree with that. I also have a feeling that I'm going to end up crying like a baby because they've really shown this season that they do have a lot of emotional punches left. I mean, we'll get to more of that later, I'm sure, but the whole thing with the mother, possible theories, and so yeah.
Already choked.
Kind of lost track there.
Jamie, what are your thoughts?
I kind of also agree with Dace. I've had my fair share of shows where the finales are normally tend to be disappointing because it's just so hyped up in my head, and I'm just so psyched, and most of the time I'm let down. So right now for tomorrow's series finale, I'm trying to just watch it, like they said, with a clean slate because I don't want to go in and just have all my hopes up, and it's just people just, I don't know, I feel like nowadays TV writers tend to ruin things by overdoing things. Well, I don't know. I'm not, I don't know. Yeah.
Robert?
I know one thing's for sure, I'm going to cry like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I'm trying to take it like Ted and the Potato Skins. I'm not trying to hype it up too much in my mind. I'm just going to let it happen and hope it works.
Nice reference. There's going to be so many references out there. If you knew the amount of notes that I took, I rewatched from season 1 all the way to the end of season 8 just to prepare over the past couple days, and really caught back up with a lot of things. Reminded myself a lot about different stuff that I've forgotten about too. And thankfully I did that, because I'm sure there's going to be references on the finale that if I wouldn't have watched that, it would have gone over my head and I would have been like, damn it. Because there's one thing that I credit this show for more than any other show I've ever seen in my entire life, and that's their continuity. They have such an amazing show Bible, and they stick to that so well. There's barely any instances where something doesn't hold up from episode 1 until now. I think there's only been like maybe 3 things that people have mentioned to me where I haven't been able to figure out exactly how it would have made sense, and it would have just been like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's just a flub. Like, I know one thing that somebody had pointed out before was Marshall, in one of the early episodes, might be like episode 4 or something like that, he says that he's never really gotten into a fight. And then later on, they do that whole section where he beats the living hell out of Doug the bartender. And they flash back and show that he's been in fights with his brothers for all these years. That's one of the only ones that I can think of, but they've done such a stellar job when it comes to things like Lily can't keep a secret. Immediately, you know she can't keep a secret from the TV series. And they've kept that up until, 2-3 episodes ago, I think it was, where they finally let her keep a secret, which was kind of awesome. And Marshall being good at games. I don't think there's a single game that he plays in the whole series where he doesn't win it. Or he's, an outsider or something like that, playing Marsh Gammon, which I still want to figure out the rules of that. And I can't remember the name of the one that Barney plays.
In Atlantic City?
Yeah. All I know is you say Igna at the end, and you got to find the jelly bean. But for you guys, have you noticed that kind of continuity throughout the series? Have you seen that, like, they keep the same basic concepts, but they apply it to every little thing that they possibly can? They're playing Zitch Dog, and Marshall's the one who's kicking ass at that. And, Robin's got a pretty steadfast character throughout it. Barney references things from past episodes constantly. What are your thoughts about that, guys?
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The only real screw up I can notice is Scooter. In the episode where Marshall and Lily get married, his name is Bill, but I think later on in the season they say his name is Jeff, and they screwed that up. But outside of that, they are pretty tight as far as keeping all of the references in it and story plots together.
I agree. I think they did that's one thing I do give them credit for, is like keeping all the plot lines like flowing throughout the entire series. Like, there's times where they would bring up something and I'm like, oh my god, I completely forgot about that, and I'm so glad that they brought it up. Or last week's episode, when they finally ended the slap bet, I had completely forgotten about the slap bet at that point. Like, when he just like slaps him at the altar, I'm like, the last slap. Like, and that's just something that kept going also throughout the series. I've never seen like such great continuity in a show before, and I give them so many kudos for that.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like even if you can find some kind of mistakes, you could just write that off and say, oh, future Ted may not be the most reliable narrator because he's remembering these things from so many years ago.
That's a really good point. Yeah. I mean, he screws up with the goat. He screws up with blah blah. Although he does figure that out eventually. And they still don't know what's going to happen with the pineapple incident. So that's another topic to bring up too, the pineapple incident. What do you guys think happened at that? I mean, they haven't really hinted too much at it. Although there is something that I read, and I don't remember where I read it, so I apologize if it was like a blog or something of the sort. But something had said that Barney wasn't going to tell Ted what happened at the pineapple incident. So that kind of implied that Barney knows something.
I thought it was interesting that in Twitter, the producer on one of his last days, or not the producer, the head writer, he had a pineapple left on his desk. So I would hope he would mention it in the last episode.
I kind of don't want to know.
No, I don't think I need. You don't need to know. It's the great mystery of life.
That's going to be like the big questions are going to be what's in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction, and what is Rosebud, and what's the pineapple incident, and all that. Any other theories about pineapple incident? We're going to touch base on that a little bit later too, but I want to throw that out before we go to our first caller of the night.
I've got nothing. I almost don't want to try to picture it. Just let the mystery go.
I agree. I think that's part of the mystery of the thing is that there's just, in real life, there's just nights that you don't remember, you won't recall, and there's only little bits and pieces that you can put together. And I think that's what I appreciate about the show is that although there are very unrealistic parts of it, there's just things about it that teach you so much about life, at least in my eyes, going through college and whatnot, and there's so much I can relate to the show, and I think the pineapple incident is just one of those things that, yeah, maybe you're not supposed to know, because in life there's just nights that you don't remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with her, because I have had plenty of those nights where I've woken up with, in a bed sheet that wasn't mine in the middle of a beach. So, and no one has been able to explain it, and it's one of those stories where people just have fun making fun of me.
We're going to go to our first caller from the 603 area code. Blah, blah to us right now, but tell us what your name is and where you're calling from.
Hi, would that be me?
Yes, it would be.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I didn't realize I was going to end up going through.
So what's your name, 603?
I'm a little surprised right now.
Who are you speaking to, 603?
Maggie.
Maggie. Hey, Maggie, what's up?
And I'm a huge fan of How I Met Your Mother.
Awesome.
So what are some things that if you're looking back at your favorite moments from the series, what are some things that pop into your mind immediately? Maggie, did we lose you? Oh, we might have lost Maggie there.
I think what happened
is you're calling back into a live show. We are reconnecting you now.
All right, we apparently lost connection here. Blog Talk Radio is doing something a little bit odd with us. So, Maggie, if you get a chance to call us back in, please do so, and we'll throw you back onto the line whenever we can.
Explain the origin of the pineapple, and it just cut off.
We're not supposed to know. So I apologize, Maggie. Like I said, call in whenever you get a chance to, and we'll throw you back on here. Continuing with the pineapple incident for now, though, there is one aspect of the pineapple incident that I think that kind of sums it all up, like we were talking about, which is about Ted just not remembering. And for the most part, we've been figuring out all of the little mysteries here and there. And I really want that to be the one that we don't. There's another big one that they haven't touched upon yet, and I will kind of hope that they throw that into the mix with the last episode if they do it in the way that I want them to. And it's kind of like the ungrateful fan. If they don't make it this certain way, then I'm going to be kind of annoyed, and that's the Love Solutions person that was supposed to be a perfect match for Ted. I naturally want that to be the mother. And if they don't mention it, then I'm going to assume that it wasn't, and that's okay. But if they do mention it and it turns out not to be the mother, I'm just going to be irked.
I don't think they would do that, because they've been setting up all season just how similar she is to Ted. If they bring that up again, it has to be her.
Do you think that it could be anybody else? Do you think that they're going to throw a little reference out there to a past girlfriend, or just say, oh, it was somebody else? Doesn't matter.
Could be Stella.
I hope it's not Stella.
I do, just because I'm a huge Scrubs fan. And
yeah, well, at that point, why not have it be Donald Faison?
Hey, it could be Turk.
Some little guy love going on.
Crossover. Zach Braff appears on the show. That's fantastic. They're friends.
If it was going to be any crossover, I'd go with Leslie Knope, but that's just me.
Well, if they do make the Love Solutions person be the mother, I think that's potentially a little bit of overkill, but a good way to really hit home that point that they are similar, like Ronnie was saying, where you really have this sensibility right now that they're meant for each other, but that would kind of put like the icing on the cake, a little cherry on top, that they were meant for each other back then, and Ted just needed to grow up a little bit more. And
I think it would make me hate Robin more, honestly, that he, put off meeting the mother for 8 years because he needed to be with Robin that badly, and it ended so horribly.
There's a lot of hate for Robin, and I'm 50-50 on that. I mean, I like Robin's character, but when it comes to whether or not I'm defending Ted, then there's a different story. Part of that becomes, since I'm very much like Ted, I've been told by a bunch of different people that I am Ted Mosby, and people that don't even know me too well. But a friend of ours, for the people that are around the same area as me, named Brett, who might be listening in, I don't know. Hey Brett, if you are. He always refers to me as Mosby whenever we bump into each other in public and stuff like that. But I'm very defensive of Ted. So when I see things that Ted does that I do, and people like make fun of him for it or whatever, I'm like, Ted's right. Like they got all, doing the fart noises and stuff when he's trying to bring a little bit of class into that. And I'm like, damn it, Ted, finish the sentence. The hell with them. Like, I want to know what this point is, Ted. And when it comes to Robin, from a fan perspective, I like the character, but I would hate her so much if I were in Ted's position, because she just screws him over constantly, doesn't she?
Well, especially after that last episode. God, I would have killed her.
Yeah.
Just now you're going to be saying this?
9 freaking years, and this is when you want to tell me how you feel? You're dead.
Well, she kept them on a string for 8 years. Don't forget the episode last season when, right before she went to Russia, she was ready to be with him again, and she was just like, no, it's not going to happen. Sorry.
Jamie, what do you think about Robin? From a different perspective, is that like a justified way for her to go about things, or is she being a bitch?
I've been 50-50 with Robin over the series. There's been times where I liked her, and then there's times where I absolutely hated her, mainly because I also connect with Ted a lot, and I relate to him, and it would, kill me to have someone like that in my life, constantly, stringing me along like that. So whenever she does things to him that gives him hope, I don't know, that's just when I absolutely hate her. And then when they're friends, I don't mind her. I don't know. She's just been up and down for me throughout the series. And, I mean, I've kind of I liked her from the start. And then, I don't know. I like the way her character did develop, though. And I feel like for Ted, if it weren't for her, though, I don't think Ted would have matured. So, or, have his character develop either. So I think, it kind of starts falling into place as the seasons go on. So I kind of have to give her props for that. Not quite sure if anyone else agrees.
I don't like her because she's Canadian.
Pulling a Barney Stinson on it, right?
Oh, yeah. They got hockey on their money.
I will give Robin a little bit more credit when it comes to her stringing along Ted, that she's far better at doing that in a justifiable way than Ted is with Henrietta. Poor Henrietta. My God, she's baking cakes and making a whole bunch of food for him and thinking that he's going to propose. And
the foot massages. Don't forget the massages.
Yeah. That's something I love about this series, was they're so honest with stuff. Even the main characters can be assholes at times just because they're human. And, the way that he calls Tiffany in that episode, he's just, hey, Tiffany, what's up? Oh, I gotta leave. Sorry, Henrietta. It's so perfect because that kind of situation does happen in real life, and they don't, manipulate it in a way to make it just seem like Ted is perfect, Barney's perfect, Robin is, this infallible angel type of a person, and Lily is this heart of the group, and everybody's got that dark side to them. Ted's kind of the intellectual of the group, but can be a total pompous ass about it. And
Encyclopedia.
Yeah, encyclopedia. And there's the that sort of dark edge that Lily has. Obviously, Barney has a dark edge, but he's more so dark edge than anything else. And they have to do the opposite with him, where he has to show that he has a heart every once in a while. But that's something I've really been fond of about this show. Too many shows make their characters infallible, or they make a villain out of everybody who's not a main character, and you have to just kind of instantly hate them. Even shows that I like. I mean, I'm guilty of liking The Big Bang Theory, and nobody really screws up on that show other than generic sitcom stuff. There's not a whole lot of weight to that. There's so much weight on How I Met Your Mother.
Which brings up an even better question of why they never won an Emmy, but...
Oh, they never did?
No.
Oh, God, that's ridiculous. How could they not win it? Well, nobody won for, Neil Patrick Harris didn't win or anything like that?
He was nominated, but
I think
he never
he's been
won.
nominated.
You son of a bitch.
I had to hit that. That is a shame. They should have won at least one time one of the seasons for Best Show.
I agree. Absolutely.
Can't believe that they would do that. Well, you know what? I can believe, because a lot of that's just BS, but...
Oh, yeah.
Everybody that I know that's watched this show has had a strong reaction to it. Either they're a huge fan of it, or they absolutely hate it. And maybe that's one of the things that got into the way for the show. The people that really, really loved it just didn't have enough pull with the people that picked the Emmys and everything.
I don't understand how you could hate this show.
Me neither, but my girlfriend hates it. A bunch of friends of mine just can't stand it. I think it's really endearing, and I think that maybe there's just some kind of a disconnect when it comes to the characters, because you have to love the characters on this show. The concept, too, but if you don't get into the characters, then you're not going to be somebody who's crying like we are going to be tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the reasons, I've had friends who absolutely hate it. One of the things they hate it is because I guess it just romanticizes the idea of love and how it works. And they're like, that's so unrealistic. But at the same time, I feel like although it's a TV show and there are aspects of it that are unrealistic and just wouldn't happen in real life, there's things that are said in the show, mainly out of Ted, that just kind of resonate with how you tend to feel in relationships or with friendships or just any kind of relationship you have with the person. And I feel like the people who hate it don't get to really see those points or see those scenes. They just kind of base it off of what they hear, or they watch one episode and they're like, I'm not hooked. And so I've noticed that the people that do like it are the people who can connect with the characters, and if you can't connect with any of them, I feel like, oh, then yeah, I guess the show is just lost on you. I don't know.
I think some of it might be about whether or not you're sentimental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to necessarily say soft, but that might be another synonym to use for that too. Because I'll admit it, I am.
And I think you actually have to think too. It's not just like, here's generic sitcom humor, laugh. You
Right, nobody's just falling down for the sake of falling down, and you're supposed to laugh because, oh, they got hurt. Haha, isn't that funny?
Except for Marshall falling back in the chair, but that's...
Even that, they did a lampshade on it, and it was like, that's what passes for comedy. Oh, look at this, I'm going to fall back. Oh, look, crap, I am falling back. Just to throw it out there for the slapstick fans that are out there. But I've loved their sense of humor on this show, and the sentimental side of it as well. So when it comes to, like Jamie was saying, the poignant moments, and they're bringing up things like the Gary Blauman episode that just passed by, what a great way to sum up the fact that you do end up losing track with people, and you just don't know what happens in their life. And if you really want them to stick around, then you have to work for it.
Yeah, I mean, so many people just fall through, and even with a tight group like that, I think Ted even said in the Robots versus Wrestlers episode that not even they are as close, but they do have their moments where they make sure to see each other.
And what a sad moment, too. One of the best moments of the series, I think, on that one episode in, I believe it was season 7. Might be season 8, but I'm not 100% positive, where Ted has the tickets to Robots versus Wrestling, and he's the only one sitting in the bar.
That was season 8.
Season 8.
Season 8
I love that episode.
That was another honest moment where you just kind of sit there and you're like, the feels.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have that sentimental side, I don't know if that really resonates with you.
And also, if you're not invested in Ted as a character, then that's not really going to hit you as hard as it would. Because if someone was just watching that episode as their first episode of How I Met Your Mother, they probably wouldn't care.
True. Something else that would do the same feeling is Bad News. The episode that counts down, which I didn't know that it counted down either. Do you guys know that? The one with...
Yeah, when that was pointed out to me after I watched it for the first time, so naturally I immediately went back and watched it again and was just amazed by that.
Yeah, I caught that after like a couple times of watching myself.
I didn't catch it at all until maybe a couple months ago. And I just, stumbling along something on Reddit or something like that, and bang, somebody brings that out, and I'm just like, oh my god, I missed this. And that shows you the level of detail that they put into this show and how they are perfectly willing to let something go by and not call attention to it. Community is another example of a TV show that does that as well, but we're talking about How I Met Your Mother here. That kind of attention to detail and that, I don't know if I would say that devotion to just the extra, but they're willing to go that little bit extra to make sure that the fans that are huge and really into this show and are going to obsess about it from every angle are going to get little things here and there about that. Instead of just, look, we're going to trudge through this episode as fast as possible. This is the story. We're going to tell that, and that's the end. Because you don't really get anything necessarily out of watching the fact that it counts down, other than that satisfaction of a fan of, that's so cool. Like, it doesn't help the episode. It doesn't make the meaning of the episode any different or whatever, but by the end you reach the same point, and that's one of the best episodes I think that they've ever done that really shows that they can tie in the comedic element and the dramatic one. Because I don't know about you guys, but when they did that episode, I had it in the back of my mind that I was just like, they're focusing a lot this season on Marshall's father. I don't know if that's just like they really wanted to incorporate a lot with him, and he was like, oh, whenever you want me on an episode, I'll be a part of it, or if they're building towards something. And when it came to that episode, I put it all aside for some reason, and God, they hit me. That was just amazing.
I think that's probably the most emotional episode they had done up until recently.
I know that it almost got me to cry. So far, I'm doing pretty good when it comes to crying at stuff. I've only cried at 3 movies, and I've only cried at 1 TV show one time. And that almost got me.
What I heard is that Jason Segel didn't know what she was going to say. Like, he just knew that his cue to react was the word it. Like, the last thing she said was he didn't make it. So when he heard the word it, that's when he knew, okay, it's my turn to react. So I don't know if that's true, but apparently that reaction was genuine.
Yeah, on the Inside the Actors Studio that they just did the other day, they were talking about that scene, and they said that was all done just that one take, even. So that's the first time that he was told his father's going to die on the show. And what's her name, Allison Hannigan, was saying, like, oh, well, let's reset and do another one. And they were like, no, it's perfect. Like, you don't have to do any more. That's exactly what we were going for. Dedication for the actors as well to do that, because not many people can pull that off.
And the chemistry, too, man. Especially between Jason Segel and Allison Hannigan. They
Yeah,
never missed a beat.
Oh, go ahead, finish.
No, that's it. You can go.
There's a great moment in that scene that shows that off, I think, and that's when he goes to hug her and then breaks down after that. I don't know if that was a conscious choice or not, but I always read that as him going like, oh, I'm supposed to comfort Lily. Wait a minute, now it's hitting me that, my father's dead, and breaking down and all that. In retrospect, that's one of those things that really hits me harder now. Over the past year, I lost my dad, and I can't watch that scene now without getting teary-eyed. Even more than I did originally when I watched the show. But that's got me now. I mean, when I got to that, when I was rewatching the first 8 seasons, I was just like nervous as all hell. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to watch this scene. I'm gonna have to do this when nobody's around, just in case. What are some other scenes that you guys think are on par, maybe better, maybe not as much, but the most emotional scenes that are out there? Dace?
Well, for me, this season just in itself, it's not really like none of these have actually brought me down to tears, but they've gotten me to the point where they go, holy crap, that's a lot like what I'm going through right now, or holy crap, I've had that happen, and blah blah blah, all that, et cetera, et cetera. But this season alone, almost every episode, I'm laughing, enjoying, and then like the last 5 minutes, it's like, oh, I'm feeling emotions. I don't like what the heck's going on. and most of them usually resonate when it's Ted and Robin interacting. Because we've all been in a situation like that before, where you've poured your heart into someone, but they don't exactly accept it or give the same back. And here, you always have that hope, and she seems to crush it every single time.
Jamie, any scenes that come to your mind with you?
Not in particular. I guess for me, I guess it was also similar whenever I saw Ted and Robin interacting, and like Ted, or just in general when Ted's pouring out his heart to someone and it just not getting reciprocated. For whatever reason, it was always good timing because I would always be going through something very similar at the time, or something similar had just happened maybe the month or two before, and to kind of see it in Ted's perspective kind of helped me see my situation in like different eyes, and that would always resonate with me. This show was probably one of the first shows since Full House to ever really bring me to tears. Like I said, I can't really think of any episodes off the top of my head because there's just so many.
Maybe it's just Bob Saget being in the show.
I was gonna say that.
I don't know. I could always get into conversations about Full House. I don't know, but I don't know. It's always with Ted that always gets me. There's just something about him that I always want to cry for him half the time. Just see him go through so many things throughout the entire show, and I'm like, oh, this poor guy. I think also when we see a breakthrough with Barney sometimes, because his character was built like, I can withstand almost anything when you see him, or like, what was the episode when, I think something with his dad, when he finds out about something about his dad being just normal, I think was also like a episode that resonated with me. I don't know.
When he does the thing with the basketball net?
Yeah. That one. That thing, I think that episode showed a lot of Barney's like emotional side, and I thought that was also, I like seeing Barney's emotional side whenever throughout the show, because it's just like, it's always heartbreaking. I'm like, oh god. So I don't know. I just think NPH is just an awesome actor when it comes to that sort of thing, though.
That's a great scene. I love that scene. And the honesty in that line, too. I mean, we were talking earlier about the honesty behind a lot of the characters, where he just says, if you could have been a boring, suburban, normal dad, why couldn't you have been that for me? And that right there tells you immediately what has been behind Barney in his mind for, I think he's supposed to be like 33, 34 at that time.
Yeah, and I love that line. That scene doesn't bring me to tears, but every time I see that episode, that line just hits me hard. I mean, I have a great relationship with my dad, so it's not that I relate to that feeling, but it's just he sells it so well. You can just feel that emotion behind it.
Well, Ronnie, is there any other scenes that pop up when you're thinking of emotional scenes that really hit you?
I really like the end of Symphony of Illumination back in season 7 where Ted's trying to comfort Robin. So he took all the Christmas lights and decorated the apartment. And for here, it was all just because he thought that Robin couldn't be a professional pole vaulter.
Yeah.
when she really couldn't have kids. I just really, really love that scene. And also, we had mentioned it, but the end of Time Travelers from season 8, Ted's big emotional speech to the mother about how if he could just have those extra 45 days, he would love that. That scene gets me too. I've seen that episode a few times now, and I just really love that.
Robert, what about you?
I would say not so much the episode where you find out Marshall's father died, but definitely the funeral. When they're all outside in the snow, and Marshall's talking about his dad, that scene gets me more than any other on the show, just because it makes me think, well, what would I do if I actually lost my dad? Everyone just kind of sits there and thinks about it for a second, and you are left with that moment. And then in Time Travelers as well, that gets me every time. And Vesuvius, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Oh yeah, we're gonna definitely devote a whole section to Vesuvius. That's gonna be a rough one. When you brought up the scene or the episode afterward when they're doing the funeral, that kind of ties back to what I had mentioned earlier about how my personal feelings are when it comes to having lost my father. When I watched the episode where, bad news, where his father dies, at that time mine was alive, and that's why it didn't hit me as hard as it does now. But I forgot about actually the episode that comes after that. And when I was rewatching it this time around, and there's the whole discussion about what the last thing you said to your father was, that was really tough for me to get through as well, because it turned out that when my father passed away, just at this time last year, we're almost up at an actual year that he died, I didn't get a chance to talk to him before he did. He was in basically a comatose state for 2-3 weeks or so, and that was something that bothered me so much when that happened. Now I've gone through an entire year, obviously, that time heals all wounds, but coming across that scene and dealing with that was really tough for me to sit through. And we all know that these are, fictional characters and everything, but they're built on such a strong foundation of truth and obviously personal experiences from the writers and the producers and everybody that they draw from, that was a real tough thing for me to get through. So that became a really tough scene for me to watch, and it wasn't originally when I watched the show. Another thing that for some reason got me pretty hard at the time, and it really shouldn't have because it's more comedic scene than anything else, was the episode where they do a little funny thing at the end where they're talking about their future selves, and Marshall is writing a letter to I think it's his 60-year-old self, and says like, oh, when you get a chance, can you send a sign from the future back at this time? And they end up having the free chicken wings or chicken fingers or whatever it was because they were too hot. And you see that there's the time traveling Marshall from the future, and he's like, oh, I didn't send them back for because they were too hot. I just already ate earlier. It's a funny scene, but for some reason that always was kind of like, oh. And it's really stupid. I mean, it's supposed to be a 60-year-old Marshall sending back hot wings. So I don't know why that ever really got me, but let's start talking about the time travelers and all that, because this is going to be a huge topic. We'll get into some fun ones afterwards to bring up the spirits, because this is going to be tough. The main theory that's been going around for a long time now is that this is all going to turn out to be a story about how he met the mother because the mother's dead. And I've had arguments with friends of mine about whether or not there's any validity to that, and I've been going for years on the train of, come on, they're not going to do that. No, there's absolutely no way. And Time Travelers comes up, and he's starting to talk about he wants those extra 40 days. And I'm like, why would he want those extra 40 days? Maybe Ted's just, he wants those extra 40 days because she's awesome. That'll justify it in my mind. And then bang, Vesuvius comes. And I almost cried immediately after watching Ted cry. Because that was just that moment of realization for me where I was just like, this is going to end up being bad. So if anybody did not catch up for some reason, obviously we're going to spoil this right now. But the scene in Vesuvius that we're all going to be talking about is, of course, Robin's mother showed up at the wedding. Whose mother doesn't show up at their daughter's wedding?
When Ted broke down, I broke down, like you said. And it just took me a minute to... I didn't want to believe that the mother could possibly be dead. I just refused to register that. And then after the episode ended, I just really thought about it. And actually, Tony, your article about instead of the mother, having Ted's mother being the one who could be dead, that's actually something that crossed my mind as well. Because that line, it would kind of make sense. You know, what mother doesn't show up to her daughter's wedding, and then maybe Ted's remembering, maybe something just happened to his mother. But who knows? I mean, the writers are really good about letting us believe one thing and then totally pulling the rug out from under us and going a different direction.
And not to mention that the mother said, I don't want you to live in your stories. Life only moves forward, and Ted just gets more serious than ever, and it just really makes you think.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob Saget wasn't in that one. That's the only episode he's not in.
Oh, really? He wasn't?
Yeah, that is very notable that there was no narration from future Ted. It was just pretty much the entire thing was Ted from whatever year that was. I don't remember, but it was that Ted kind of narrating the whole thing.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, so that part of the story isn't told to the children.
Oh, man, that's going to add another element to that. I didn't even think about that. Wow.
I didn't even pick up on that, to be completely honest.
But now if you go back and watch that episode, you'll think, well, damn, he's not in this.
Now if we go back, we're going to find out that it's counting down throughout the whole episode. We're going to be like, son of a bitch, we didn't even think of that either. Dace, what do you think about the theory? Is the mother dead, or is it some kind of a backup, like my escapism of, no, Ted's mother died and didn't get to see his sister Heather's wedding, and that's why, come on, believe it that instead.
Oh, she totally kicked the bucket. I mean, who's going to sit their kids down and say, hey, I'm going to tell you a story about your mother, and that mother never interjecting once in 9 years?
Well, it doesn't take them 9 years to tell a story.
Feels like it.
But
go ahead. Sorry. It's like, seriously, how can a husband sit there and tell an entire story about the mother, like how he met the mother, and not once, like, get yelled at for some of the shit he told them? Like, he goes on, like, elaborate, the Barney and the streak. Like, he tells those kind of stories, and yet no interjection from the mother, from the future.
Maybe she's out at the store or something. but
that's how the show ends. She just comes back with a bag of groceries, and she's like, so what have you been up to? And they're like, Dad's boring us. It's just like, I like that story. It just ends.
But see, if the mother is actually dead, I feel like with how good they are with the continuity, it's really insensitive for the kids to react that way at the beginning of the story. Oh, you're going to tell us a story about our dead mom? We don't want to hear this. Can we leave?
Yeah.
And Ted seems a little bit too happy when he's telling the story, too.
It's just him getting stuck in the past. I mean, I tell stories about what I've done in the past, and it makes me smile.
Yeah, but are you telling them about, like, somebody who died?
I died a little bit when some of these things happened.
Touche. But yeah, that is really insensitive. The kids are just kind of like, ugh, Dad's yakking on about our dead mom. Like, dude, she died like 2 days ago. Get over it, Dad.
Move on already. God.
I'm really hoping that it is some kind of a red herring, and that it's not something that actually points to that. There's one thing that's making me hold out a lot of hope, and I didn't think about this when the episode aired, but looking back, and I didn't rewatch season 9 on this marathon that I did, but I did just check up a couple clips for the hell of it. There is a scene from this season where Ted's doing the crossword puzzle, and they show him with the mother for a year later when he brings her back, and he's saying, you know, when I was sitting here at this table a year ago, I said 1 year from now I would bring her back, and oh, well, you didn't meet me yet. Yeah, but I knew that I would, and whatever. And when he's doing the crossword puzzle, he goes, Vesuvius. Nah, wait, that doesn't fit.
Huh.
Oh, look at you picking out things.
Right. On a second time of watching it as well. Never on the first one. Not good enough for that, but so that's maybe a little clue that they're throwing something out on the episode of Vesuvius to make people think one thing, and it's going to turn out to be something else. And the big theory that I'm hearing, that I'm starting to buy into for an alternative, is that scene in Vesuvius takes place in 2024, and he's telling the story to the kids in 2030, so 6 years have passed by. That's more than enough time for, you know, things to get worse, but it's also time for things to get better. And I've been hearing a lot of people saying, what if she has a terminal illness in 2024 when they're doing this whole talk about, you know, the mothers and daughters at weddings and stuff, but in the next 6 years she gets better. Maybe like they find out that she has cancer, and in the 6 years she goes through chemotherapy, and they obviously flash back to this in the next episode. They can't just leave that loose thread hanging. And, you know, she's gotten a little bit better, and now they're just celebrating the fact that the cancer is gone or something, and that's why he's telling the story. I think that could play into it.
They've got a very long hour ahead of them if that's what they're going to do.
They're just going to cram it all in. They're just gonna do lots of flash forwards and flashbacks and just be like, remember this? It was that. And the Pineapple Theory, this is what happened. Like,
that would be the entire hour.
We find out she was reincarnated as a pineapple, and the entire time, that's what it was. Symbolism at its finest.
Right? Pineapples are yellow.
My guardian pineapple.
Someone is going to hear this and run with this, and like an article is going to blow up and trending on Facebook. Pineapple is the mother.
The pineapple incident. Well, she was out in the rain, and her yellow umbrella, you know, it wrapped itself around her and somehow threw her back in time as a pineapple.
Ted finally got tired of the bitches and wet it up with a pineapple.
It's going to turn out to be like Castaway, where he's talking to Wilson. He's really just adopted these two kids, and he's talking to a pineapple all the time. So, this is your mother. Doesn't she look pretty today?
Nah, the entire time he was in a padded room just talking to, like, chairs.
That would explain why she doesn't have a name.
None of these stories are true. Look at Barney. He's not a real person.
He didn't really
Canada doesn't exist. I'm going wild. Gotta reel me back in.
I'm going to reel that back in with something that was just brought up, though. The mother's name. She's still, we're one episode past what we should have known, as far as I was concerned. I thought we were going to know the last part of this episode that just ended, and we still don't know her name.
But we have Blah Blah's name.
Well, we figured out Blah Blah's name. He better not be not remembering his mother's their mother's name. Let me tell you a story about how I met your mother. What was her name?
Penelope, because it sounds like pineapple.
Oh, that's Penny is the daughter's name.
Ah, damn it.
So she might be a Penelope.
And Luke is the son.
Yeah, so they didn't quite get Luke and Leia.
I mean, at least she gave him half of it.
Yeah. That's actually something that people are thinking maybe that her name is Leia.
That's what Brett said when I talked to him about it. He's dead set on it being Leia.
That'd be really strange.
For the people that are following and paying attention to all the little details and stuff, and I didn't for this one as well, somebody else pointed it out to me. The episode How Your Mother Met Me, and they follow her around, there's a birthday cake, and her name is cut off of it, but it looks like it ends with a Y. So when they had that episode Daisy that was coming out, everybody was like, oh my god, Daisy's going to be her name, and everybody forgot about the fact that they could just introduce a kid.
Yeah, when I first read the episode listing, I thought, okay, Daisy's her name. Like,
it seemed like it would have fit.
Mm-hmm.
I have a different theory, and I'll mention that when everybody else goes, but Dace, if you have to pick what her name is, what do you think it's going to be?
Shakira.
Way to go with the obvious one, Dace.
I know, right? She's got the hips that don't lie. I'm out. I don't know what her name is.
Robert, what do you think?
it's gonna be Robin with a Y.
I've heard that quite a bit, actually, yeah. Jamie?
I've heard the Robin one with the Y too. I really, off the top of my head, I can't really think of any names. Maybe it's something like Allie. I'm not really quite sure.
Ronnie?
I really don't know. It's kind of like the pineapple incident for me, where I don't want to speculate. I just want to wait and see what we get, because no matter what, there will be some people who are like, oh, that's a perfect name. It makes complete sense. There will be other people who are just like, what the hell? Like, that's an awful name. That makes no sense. So no matter what, people are either gonna love the choice or hate the choice. I feel like when Kristen Melody was cast and when she was revealed at the end of season 8. Most people I know loved her, but you see people online who weren't crazy about her.
There's two things that I think might play into here. One of them is when he says to a hooker in one of the episodes, not a hooker, a stripper. I should clarify between the two of them in case there's anybody listening. He is at the strip club, and she introduces herself, and she says, I don't know, Jasmine or something like that. And he's like, I'm Ted. And she goes, actually, I'm really Tracy. And he says, I'm still Ted. And he ends that episode with, and that kid's is How I Met Your Mother. And they go, what? So they believe that. And he goes, oh, I'm just kidding. That's not true. So if that's the case, maybe her name's Tracy. And he's telling the story. He's telling the story, and it's like, hi, but, actually, my name is Tracy. And that's why they go, wait, what? Because they know, obviously, what their mother's name is by now. Unless he's really that bad of a storyteller and he still hasn't told them over these years. I'm thinking Kimberly, though. And the main reason for that, which I didn't think of until I rewatched these episodes, is pretty early on, he says to, I think it's Marshall, that he's going through a list of things that he really likes about women and, different things that his future wife should do and have and personality traits and all that. And he mentions about she should play bass in a band. And whoever it is, Marshall or Barney, I think it's Marshall, says, like Kim so-and-so from whatever the band is. And he's like, yeah. And then Marshall says, or Kim whatever from, names another band. And he goes, any Kim from any band. So Kimberly does end with a Y, long enough to fit on that cake.
And she is in Super Freakonomics, so I mean, these are possibilities.
I could see her being pretty much any name at this point. Maybe not Shakira, but...
Damn it! I'm not watching. I'm out.
But I'm definitely going with Kimberly. I'm going to bet the house on that one. And if it turns out to be something else, I'll be fine with it. Because I was really on the skeptical wagon before they introduced who actually, was going to play the mother. And that one shot at the end, when they showed her, I immediately was just like, they got it. I don't care. Anything that they do on this show, I'm just going to believe it from now. Because the big thing that I was worried about, they got it perfect. She's totally a mix between Robin and Lily, which is what I was kind of hoping for.
You think they were casting for a while, or do you think they knew who they wanted and they just took it?
I don't think that they knew too far ahead of time. Maybe like 2 or 3 seasons before they cast her. But you gotta figure she probably was really young when it started. I don't know how old she is now, but she doesn't look that old to me right now.
Isn't she like 25?
She might be.
I'm just saying that because I'm hoping she's my age.
Well,
She's
she's
26
kind of
for you.
She's from our neck of the woods. I think she's from like Cherry Hill.
Right, yeah.
See, I can get some digits. Already 856.
So, your first thoughts about the mother. Let's go on that topic. I already just said my piece. Thought she was perfect. And I know some people that weren't really too big on her that have gotten used to her. And now, throughout season 9, they really kind of understand the point. But did you guys instantly like her as well? Or did you have some kind of skeptical perspective of it? Or do you still hate her, if that's the case?
I thought she was perfect.
You did?
I thought she was, the minute they showed her and you just saw the way she carried herself, she looked like she fit right in with the cast, and it just clicked.
Yeah, I agree. I saw her, and before we saw her, I didn't really have a mental picture of what I thought she would be, but then once she appeared, I had that same reaction you did, Tony. Like, that's it. They got it. She's perfect.
Yeah, I agree. When I saw her, I was like, I couldn't imagine anyone else being the mother at that point. I was like, that's like on point. They got it. End of story. Like, I had no problems with her being the mother whatsoever, nor have I really met anyone who hated her, so that's all new for me.
Dace?
Oh, I immediately called dibs and then started Googling her. It's like, this is going to be my future wife. Sorry, Ted. She's mine.
So maybe that's how the story ends.
Yeah,
the mother leaves for Chris Dace.
He had implied dibs, and it just does not fly.
So sorry, we just spoiled the finale for everybody listening.
That's why I'm flying out tomorrow morning.
Man, how are they going to introduce Dace in that hour?
It's going to be legend. Wait for it. I'll finish it later.
He comes out of the pineapple, doesn't he? Isn't that the whole deal?
It's going to be like a giant cake kind of thing where people come out of it. Big pineapple instead.
I'd be the most hated person in America.
Just go like full ham about it. Hi guys, I'm Chris Dace. I'm going to be the father instead.
Have you met me?
By the way, she's 28.
Damn it. Sorry, that's not that bad.
Closer to my age. There goes your dibs.
Damn. No, okay. I called dibs first.
Yeah, well, I'm older, so screw that. Another topic I wanted to bring up here that people debate about back and forth. When we didn't know who the mother was, people were thinking a lot of different people that were in relationships with Ted were alternatives for the mother. And they had said before that if they were only in one season, they would have just given it to Victoria. But if you had to go with a second best choice, and the mother, whatever her name is, ended up not being the person that they ended up putting there, and they ended up just going back to an old girlfriend or whatever like that is, who would you guys rather have seen Ted end up with? Maybe Zoe, Stella, Natalie, blah, blah. I'm going around and kind of a reverse circle from last time. Dace, who would you rather have had?
Obviously Stella.
Just because Scrubs?
Just because Sarah Chalk?
Sarah Chalk. Sarah Chalk for the win.
Jamie?
I guess either Stella or Victoria. I'm leaning more towards Victoria because I feel like they clicked a lot better. Yeah. But I think I would have been disappointed had they gone that route, though, altogether.
Ronnie?
Yeah, I agree with Victoria. That would be my next choice.
Robert?
Victoria only because Zoe and Ted didn't get along. Stella already had a child, so where would that child have been? Victoria was the only one who even remotely made sense, even though I kind of have been hoping for Ted and Robin, even though she's introduced as Aunt Robin, and I'm sure those kids have nightmares about their father and their aunt sleeping together, but doesn't matter. I would have went with either Victoria or Robin if it could have happened.
I don't know who I would go with. I didn't really like any of them enough. I mean, Jeanette was annoying as all hell. Stella, man, screw Stella.
Hey!
And Zoe, the hell was Zoe? She was just a total bitch. I'd probably have to go with some random one that they just had in like one episode or something. And I don't really know who that would be off the top of my head. I always thought that the Slutty Pumpkin would have been a good thing to bring back if they needed to. And I'm really glad that they did eventually do that, and she ended up being the total opposite, just because it throws that on a, 180 curve. But my big theory before they did it eventually was that it was all going to turn out to be Barney's half-sister. I was looking forward to that. I thought I called it, well in advance, and ever since that episode where they do the whole scene with the basketball net, and the sister's not there, and they mention that she's in college, I was just like, they're throwing that out there because that's what it's going to be. I know it. I know the end of the series. Everybody could just skip to the end. I got it. And then they bring her on, and it's totally wrong. And I'm just like, son of a bitch. When they introduced the character, though, Carly Whitaker, she's totally not somebody that I could see with Ted, so you wouldn't bring that name up for potentials for that. I'd probably end up going with Victoria. But that second trip around with Victoria, I didn't like her as much.
Yeah, I kind of just throw that out the window. I didn't care for who they brought her back as.
When it goes for second choices of other people, Barney had a whole thing going on with Nora, and we thought that he was going to marry Quinn at one point. Obviously, now it's over with, and we know that he marries Robin, but if you were to go for a second choice for Barney, what would you guys go with? Same order as before. Dace?
Quinn. She was hot. I really have no reasoning except that she was hot, and she was a stripper. Oh God.
You don't think Nora was?
She was hot, but she wasn't a stripper. Quinn was a stripper. Come on.
Jamie, who would you want to have seen?
I probably would have gone with Quinn just because, based off the personality that Barney had, I felt like their personalities meshed well. Oh, sex-wise, anyways. And I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Nora. I don't know why, but I just didn't really like her. She really actually annoyed me a bit.
This is a female Burhan.
Ronnie, who would you go with?
I'm gonna agree with Quinn. I just think that she definitely was she seemed like a better match personality-wise. I agree with that. And I liked Nora, but they just didn't seem to click as well as you would expect, as well as you would hope for someone who's going to be Barney's wife.
Robert?
I can't believe nobody said Ted's mom.
That's a good point.
But I would have...
Can I change my answer?
Go right ahead.
Go ahead.
I would have definitely went with Quinn because they did match, but they did keep you guessing for a while with Barney. Even with Patrice, I'll admit I was kind of fooled when they made it seem like he was going to marry Patrice and just change for Patrice. But all in all, I would have went with Quinn, and I think they could have ended Barney's story there. But no, Robin always had to be the center of attention, so Robin it was.
I detect a hint of hostility behind that.
I don't care for the Robin character.
Really? Not even just to back up Ted, but in general?
Well, no, just from everything she did romantically, I didn't care for her. When she was just by herself, she was an awesome character and provided great moments, but romantically, she just screwed over Ted and was ready to be with anyone else other than Ted, and that just never sat well with me.
And she's Canadian.
Yeah.
Right? It's all good in the Canadian thing. I'm so glad that they ended up making Barney part Canadian, though, just to kind of balance that out a little bit.
It was good. That was probably one of my favorite episodes when he went to Tim Hortons in Toronto.
How many loonies do you think picks up a bar tab at MacLaren's?
God, I hate why do they have to have their $1 and $2 to be coins? I don't like the jingle when I walk. What's wrong with that country? Can I have an anti-Canada podcast like after How I Met Your Mother ends?
Yes.
Like immediately after the episode ends.
Yeah, why we hate Canada. How I Met Your Mother, nothing to do with Retrospective.
Let's call it Canada is not steak sauce.
Oh, God. Hate Canada.
Can they just become a state already?
No, they should just disappear. We don't want them in our country. Them and their beards.
One mention that I gotta throw out there again for everybody: if you do want to call in and suggest random topics for us to talk about, or talk about something else on your own, little reminder: 760-512-7247, or you can call in using Skype, and we'll get you on the line, and you can complain about Robin. You can talk about how awesome Barney is, and you want to sleep with him. You can try to challenge Marshall to a game and probably lose, whatever the case may be. So going from the idea of second choices and all that, before I never said my choice. I would have gone with Quinn. Anyway. And it's not because she's a stripper. I just thought that she meshed well.
Oh, it's because she's a stripper. Come on.
No. Doesn't she mesh well without the stripper element?
I guess.
Boom! Lawyered.
There you go. I'm going to throw a random topic out here just because I have a lot of notes down and I figured, what the hell, why not? The Naked Man. Anybody willing to try it? I know that I don't have the balls to do it.
Nope.
No, not comfortable enough in my body to do that.
Only if it's a Marshall and Lily case, and I've been with the girl for, 10 years.
Yeah, that's a little different. Not with some girl I'm out on a first date with.
Not even if you know that it's going to go bad?
No, I couldn't throw that Hail Mary. I just couldn't do it.
Jamie, what would you do if somebody ended up pulling a naked man on you? You gonna fall for it like with Mitch?
I really think it would have to depend on the guy. If it was someone I liked, I might actually go for it. I might fall for it. If it was something where I didn't really think it was heading in that direction and they decided to pull that, I might just run out of the room. Just because I've run out of rooms for worse. I mean, not for worse, for less. So to see, that would probably be the worst thing to ever happen to me if that were the case. I'm sorry.
I'm going to get your perspective on another thing here. Does Ted pull off the red cowboy boots?
No. I never thought he pulled them off at all whatsoever. Like, he was cute for trying, but I felt maybe if he wore the right outfit, but he never wore the right outfit to go with those boots. And to me, I'm just like, no, it doesn't work for me. Like, just take them off. Like, no.
What other than bearded Wonder Woman can pull off red cowboy boots? I don't.
Bearded Wonder Woman.
To go back to the Naked Man, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
Challenge accepted. I will report back in a couple weeks. Yeah, I will report back in 2 weeks.
Next podcast.
You need to get the boots too and try that. Why not? Combine your efforts. See if you can pull it off.
Oh, I could easily pull a chick in those red boots. It matches the tone of my skin when I get mad, like the Hulk, but red.
Can you at least get approved by G-Quack?
Absolutely. Challenge accepted.
Another random topic here. This is a really random one that pretty much nobody will have much to talk about, but I wanted to throw it out there because I want to give credit to myself. I'm honest. What the hell? The episode of Jenkins at the time, I thought this was a really weird instance that happened, but I usually, when the show goes on, and I do this for other TV shows too, I don't pay that much attention to what the next episode's going to be about. I don't want to know really like any spoilers. And I try not to even watch the little, next week on whatever, we're going to show you half the scenes that are going to be important and spoil that and stuff. So I got into that habit a couple years ago. And funny enough, when it happened, that episode of Jenkins, that day I was thinking to myself, you know what? I don't think I've ever came across a woman named Jenkins. That's just such a manly sounding name. Like Jenkins is always like a dude. And I turn on How I Met Your Mother, and it's a whole episode about people thinking Jenkins is a guy, and I was just like, you gotta be kidding me.
Weird Minnesota names, though. I mean, Jenkins.
They're basically Canadian, too. You go listen to the Minnesota people, they use the word A.
Minnesota.
Hunt moose, it snows all the time, it's Canada.
And they scream like Brock Lesnar, but that...
Wow!
So we talked about the pineapple incident, and there's a couple questionable things that they pick out through the series. There's the olive theory, which, for anybody who doesn't remember or anybody who missed that episode or anything, is where Marshall and Lily, one of them likes olives and the other one doesn't, and that's what makes them a perfect couple. And we find out at the end of the episode that Marshall actually does like olives, and great line as well when he tells Lily about that, and Lily just says, we'll figure it out. Like, we'll work, it'll be okay.
Months of therapy.
That's probably why they ended up breaking up and she moved to San Francisco, because their whole relationship was based on a lie. You think about that?
The olives kept going missing, and she didn't know what was going on, and it was, like you said, it was a lie.
It was like, instead of the episode where Ted and Robin break up over the milk, or have the argument over the milk, they don't break up over it, but what you don't see and what Ted doesn't know, so he can't recant back to the kids, is before she decided to take that trip, she just went into the fridge one day and she's just like, I really want olives. No! I gotta get away from Marshall so I can keep my olive stash. Do you guys think the olive theory has any actual credibility behind it? I do. Maybe not necessarily olives in particular, but I do think that you need a certain amount of give and take when it comes to relationships where somebody does something and somebody doesn't. You need maybe one person's a talker and the other person doesn't talk that much and they just listen, so that way you're not talking over each other all the time. You've got, an adventurer and you've got somebody who doesn't do that much, so the adventurer brings the other person out, gets them to try new things. Other person can kind of take them back down to earth. They didn't touch upon that kind of stuff that much, but that is basically what the olive theory depends upon. What do you guys think about that, Jamie?
I think I thought it had credibility to it, not just in relationships, just any relationship you have with a person in general. Just kind of a balance of things is always nice. I always kind of imagined with my boyfriend and I, who I love seafood and he doesn't, so I'm like, well, whenever we go somewhere, I don't have to worry about someone taking my shrimp. I mean, that was the first thing I thought of with the olive theory, and I was like, so that kind of works. But I mean, it works with any kind of sort of relationship you have, and I think that was kind of something. One of the first things that I liked about the show was things like that about life in general.
Now, after this podcast, you're going to get some shrimp and your boyfriend's going to be like, actually?
I would be so upset. I would probably cry.
Off to therapy for you guys as well.
You'll figure it out, don't worry. Robert, what do you think about the olive theory?
I think every relationship does need balance, but they also show you within the olive theory that a lot of those signs from the universe and trying to find reasons to balance things is just in your head anyway, and it can all turn out to not be true. So, while I think balance might be nice, you also have to realize that some of these perfect signs just aren't there, and I think that was what I took away from the olive theory.
Ronnie?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that I think it does make sense that regardless if it's a relationship or a friendship, just two people can't be completely in sync in every aspect, because even with Marshall and Lily, it's been established in the show they are such a great couple, but they are not identical. They're their own people, so they have their differences, and I think that just makes things stronger.
Dace?
Yeah, once again, the checks and balances thing. I wouldn't necessarily want somebody as crazy and talkative as me because I like the attention, and I don't want them stealing it from me. It's mine.
Another theory is the mermaid theory, and I forgot about this until I rewatched it because it just wasn't, popular enough or whatever when the series was going along. Do you guys remember the mermaid theory, or are you in the same boat as me where you were like, wait, what episode was that?
Yes, I remember the mermaid theory.
What do you think about it? The whole idea that somebody is going to turn into a mermaid when they look like a manatee at first to you.
That, I think, is very true. You're going to have a moment, even if it's just you get closer with the person or you're a 10 feeling like a 4, you're just going to one day look at this person and they're going to be attractive to you, even if it's just for one day or one night or whatever it is.
Anybody else have any perspectives of the mermaid theory?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Any personal stories?
Well, no, I don't think so. I've never dated a manatee. It's been all mermaids. I do like one theory that they do have, but I'll talk about that after we get past the mermaid one.
Well, if anybody else has nothing else to mention about mermaid theory, go ahead.
Oh, does anybody? I don't want to stray, derail topic.
No, go ahead.
See, I'm a big fan of Barney's theory that women are like gremlins. 1, never get them wet. In other words, don't let them have a shower at your place. 2, keep them away from sunlight, i.e. don't ever let them see you during the day. And 3, never feed them after midnight, meaning she does not sleep over and you do not do breakfast with her. Ever. And brunch is not cool.
You mean you wouldn't rock it 2 bros brunch style? If I invited you to brunch?
Ted, brunch is not cool.
Oh man!
I don't know. I'm hearing that zucchini breads were dunk.
How about a little Mamma Mia?
That I might have to pass down on. That's a character that I really think that they should have had some more time with. Brad.
That the Blitz?
No, the Blitz was awesome though. I love the
Okay.
Blitz. But I'm not talking about the Blitz.
Oh man!
Brad, the other lawyer that Marshall was friends with from law school.
And who
Joe
came
Manganiello.
back?
Oh yeah, that big guy. That Barney punched and goes, I think we should just talk this out.
I did like his character a lot. He was one of the best supporting characters, I think.
Scooby was pretty cool.
Scooby was good for an episode, yeah. Any people that you guys can think of that were supporting characters that popped up for a couple episodes that you were really a big fan of? That's one that comes to my mind right off the bat is Brad.
Definitely Brad. But I would also say Abby, Britney Spears' character. That was a great supporting role. And all of the parents, like his mom, Clint is one of my favorites. And of course James.
Oh yeah, James.
Yeah.
James is a good one.
Gotta love Wayne Brady.
Gotta love Wayne Brady.
Meh.
Carl, the bartender, right? That was his name, Carl.
Yeah.
Do we ever find out his last name?
I always thought it was MacLaren.
MacLaren's
Isn't he like Hispanic?
Yeah, he could be part Irish.
Well, he did say the bar stayed in the family when he gave it to his son.
His white son with blonde hair, which is...
He might have. I don't know.
I also liked Will Sasso's character when he was like the bouncer there a couple times.
Doug the bartender.
Or yeah.
With the
Toupee.
wet hats.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite running jokes in that episode.
So why are they wet?
No explanation for it. It's just...
I like how he was really happy about it too. He's just like, nobody's wearing the hats that I made. I liked Blauman a lot, and I didn't realize it until watching it again this time around. But that steak sauce thing that they had going for that. And when he stands up on the conference table to take a piss and leave, and come on.
Well, now that you mentioned Blauman, they do say in that episode when he stands on the conference table that he died. So there's another little story plot that they did not follow through with.
Yeah,
Oh,
somebody tweeted it was
Yeah.
either Carter Bays or... Do you know which one it was? Carter or Craig?
I want to say it was Craig, but I could be wrong. But I saw that tweet where he was saying that Barney was just lying in that episode.
Yeah, in their defense, when I don't talk to somebody in 6 months and somebody goes, "Hey, have you heard from so-and-so?" I'm like, "Oh, I think they died." That's what I do.
And he does kind of throw that out there, just like, oh, and he died.
Yeah. So I completely understand why he may have thought he died. It might have been 6 months since he last talked to him.
Or it could have just been doppelganger.
True.
That is true.
I want to find my doppelganger so much. It's ridiculous. I really want that to be like a real thing. We're going to play a little game right here. And it's going to be Name That Bitch. I'm going to mention somebody who was an old conquest in the dating world for Ted. And I want to know if any of you guys can actually pop her name out. So I got a couple here.
Robin.
Well, for half the episodes, yes. This one knows Krav Maga.
Natalie.
Ding, ding, ding. Who was the person in the pineapple incident?
Trudy.
It's Mandy Moore. I don't know what her name is.
No, it was Trudy.
Is it Trudy?
Yep, Mandy Moore was the tattoo.
Ah.
Who is Boats?
Okay.
The person who went on the date to see the wedding bride.
Oh, what is her name?
That was not one that I remembered. I remembered the actress, but I never remembered her name on the show.
I want to say Jen, but...
Nope.
You got me there.
Shakira.
Royce, apparently.
Royce. That's not even ringing a bell.
Right. Insignificant character, but why not? More significant character, Ted's on and off again girlfriend in college.
Karen.
Donna.
Yeah, Donna counts. Speaking of Royce, this is something that I mentioned that I was going to talk about different things that I never saw until watching it a second time around. The end of the episode, they were talking about how everybody has baggage, and they show a bunch of people that are carrying briefcases and suitcases and everything that's supposed to represent their baggage, and it all says something on each one of their things. Apparently, I think there's 3 girls that walk by that shot that it says slept with Barney. And something that I was like, that is really cool, because nobody's going to see this unless they go back and watch it. A guy is holding one of the baggage things, and his says, still thinks his ska band is going to take off. And he ends up bumping into a girl, and her baggage says only dates guys in a band. And they just bump into each other and just go like, oh, sorry. So I don't know if they ever planned on doing like a little spin-off, or that was just like another little romanticizing of the minutiae of everyday life kind of things. But looking back on that, I was just like, that's a really kind of sweet thing that they threw out there. Something else, apparently Barney loves the number 83. When he does statistics, he tends to use 83 almost every single time. And there's a bunch of other instances throughout where he picks a number, and it's something like 183 or 38
or 8.3, I think he did once.
Yeah, 8.3, yeah. So that's another running gag.
Yeah, and like Ted did call him on that in one episode. Said, did you know when you make up a statistic, you always pick 83?
Right. And it's always the inverse of whatever it is. 17% of the time this happens. The Murtaugh list, that's another random thing here. I agree. Sometimes you just get to that point you can't do that shit anymore. Stuff.
Yeah, stuff.
Challenge accepted.
Don't end up like Barney.
None of you play laser tag? Is that what I'm getting here?
I would if I could. I don't have any around this area.
Dude, there's one like up on 73. It's fantastic. The only problem is if you're 6'3" and the kids are like 4'10". So if you're trying to shoot them, normally they get you first because your chest is eye level and theirs is on the ground. So what kind of adult shoots at the ground? Freaking unfair.
I see a future thing that we're gonna have to try to do.
Dude, I'll go. Let's go this weekend. Oh no,
All right.
it's WrestleMania. The weekend after.
All right. Front porch is something that ties into the mother, and I really hope that they bring that into the next episode. The episode where Lily is talking about how when she looks at Ted's romantic conquests and tries to figure out whether or not she can break them up, it all depends on if she sees that person sitting on the front porch with them when they're old playing bridge, which another reference to continuity, Marshall is the person who wins bridge.
Except for when Karen plays.
Right. But fuck Karen. I really hope that they show something in regards to that. I don't know if they necessarily need to show them doing the actual sitting on the front porch and playing bridge or whatever, but that would be a nice little tie-in that I could see them doing where, he's done telling the story and the mother, whatever her name is, comes in and just goes like, oh, you ready to come out back and play bridge? That'd be a nice little thing, I think. What do you guys think about that? You want to see the porch, or has it already passed?
I wouldn't mind seeing it, but for most people, it's probably already passed. So I doubt they'll throw it in there.
Yeah, I'd like to see it too, but I agree with that. We all have very strong feelings about this.
Apparently.
So I was still reading the Murtaugh list and trying to cross off how many things I do on a daily basis.
Well, the Murtaugh list is going to be something that I definitely take away from this show and remember for years and years to come. I'm going to be, 60 and thinking to myself, maybe I should have made a Murtaugh list.
Well, looking at the 14 items that are known to be on the list, I can still do them all, except for number one. Number one, I'm never going to pierce my own ears. I feel like that's just dangerous. You want to read the list?
I don't think that there's many things out there, but why don't you read the list, throw it out there for anybody else.
Number one is to pierce your own ears. Not going to happen. Number two, crash on a friend's futon instead of getting a hotel room. I've crashed in their tubs. Number three, pull an all-nighter. Just did that in February. 4, laser tag. Yeah, that's not going to give that up. 5, eat an entire pizza in one sitting. Do that all the time. Hang posters on your walls with no frames. I don't want my posters to get destroyed, but I could do that. Do laundry at my mom's house. Still live at my mom's house. Put off going to the doctor. Haven't been in 3 years. Drink shots with strangers. I've bought an entire bar around. Leave an annoying 2-person message on your answering machine. I would never do that just because that's stupid. Help someone move out of a 6th-floor walk-up in exchange for pizza and beer. I have helped people move for pizza and beer. Dye my hair a funny color. I have frosted the tips before. Beer bong every weekend. And go to a rave. I kind of have my own rave in my own bedroom.
Sandstorm?
So
Yep.
So would you say you got the cool guy tips?
Yeah, of course.
You're going to turn yours into the same nightclub from one of the first episodes where you have to just talk in between the different sections of the songs.
I'll do it. Have you met Ted?
That's how I want this to be the introduction, by the way, of how they meet each other.
Oh, that'd be great.
I just want somebody, preferably Barney, to just say to her, have you met Ted? That'd be a
subtly.
great way.
Not even like the whole drug out way. Like, have you met Ted? Just like, have you met Ted? And then just walk away. Like, oh.
Well, I was thinking they've all met her already. What if they all just collectively realize she's perfect for Ted and they all do the have you met Ted to close it out?
That'd be a good way to combine them all. I like that.
Would be.
Maybe they can include some kind of a duck or a rabbit.
I feel like Barney should see her again, though, before they do that, because didn't they establish that Barney met her like a year ago or something, like a long time ago?
Yeah, I think it was like right around the time. It was supposed to be right around the time where he plots the Robin.
Right. So yeah, it was. I feel like he should see her again to just kind of remember. Oh yeah, that I remember her.
Either that or they're gonna go, you met whatever her name is, Kimberly Tracy or whatever like that, and he's gonna go boobs. Can't blame him. A character that I really want to see them incorporate, but I don't think that they will, and it's kind of a shame, is Punchy. There's no place for him at this wedding, but if they do some kind of a flash forward, I'd love to see Punchy pop up there.
I could easily see a flash forward to Ted's wedding, just because we've already seen him propose to her. We've seen pretty much everything except their actual wedding and them meeting, so they could be saving both of those things for the finale.
And I don't want to see future Ted, by the way. Do you guys?
I do.
No.
I think I do. Just to see Bob Saget once, even if it was just in a cameo doing something else, just to see him on the show once.
Yeah, like maybe if they show Ted's wedding, have Bob Saget just be sitting there as a guest somewhere.
Well, how do you guys think that they're going to explain the change in voice?
Throat cancer.
Maybe Ted's the one with the terminal illness.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, snap.
He better not. He's gotten shit all this entire life. That would suck. He's like, I finally meet this woman in my dreams, and then they're like, hey, you remember that basal cell carcinoma from the beginning of the episodes? Yeah, well, that's part of your throat. You're going to sound like Bob Saget now for the rest of your life. I kind of want them to just make a joke out of it. He could just kind of be talking and then go, sorry about that, kids, and start talking like normal Ted.
That would be good.
Sore throat today. Like, I've heard a lot of people saying that must mean that he's like going insane or something, or that he's not actually telling the story and it's going to be somebody else, and I don't know.
It just really means that they didn't think the show would last more than a season or two, and they were just like, oh, we can get away with this.
When it comes to the moments that you guys think you're going to look back on the most and either rewatch, because they're really funny ones that you're going to laugh about, or things that maybe taught you a really good lesson, what are some stuff that's really going to be sticking with you? I'll start with Jamie here.
I don't know. I guess not to be like sappy, but like any speech Ted has made on love or meeting people or friendships or life in general, I think those are the moments that I'm going to remember, just because I think he gives really great advice, and those are just really quotable things that he says most of the time. I guess comedic-wise, most of Barney's antics are always going to stick out for me, and Marshall too. Anything between Marshall and Ted, like the sword fight and Lily getting stabbed, that sort of thing will always stick out. Those are the things I'm probably going to remember the most.
Robert?
I would say definitely a lot of what Ted has done for all of the women he's tried to be with over the years. I would take away a lot from the Marshall and Lily relationship. But on the comedic side, I think I'm really going to take away a lot of the songs. They have a lot of great music on there, both specifically for the show and a lot of the background music they play.
Bang, bang, bangity bang.
Bang, 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 bang.
Bang, 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 bang.
And the suit song.
The suit. I like Two Beavers Are Better Than One. I think that's probably one of their best.
I always loved Murder Train. I actually used that for a ringtone for people for a while. But you can't really be like in a situation and have Murder Train go off and not look weird. So
why didn't Foreskin play at the wedding?
Foreskins? God, I love that name. That's so perfect for that. Ronnie, what are you going to take away from the show?
I mean, as far as the comedic side, some of my answers are already taken, like the Suits song. I just love that song. The Cock a Mouse, that just sticks with me. I'm just kind of drawing a blank. I can't, as far as more emotional stuff, I can't really think of specifics off the top of my head right now. Just in general, I just love it all. I know that's so cliched and boring, but you know.
Dace?
Well, when it comes to like the comedy side, it's the Bro Code. I have the book. It's fantastic. The Playbook. I have that book as well. It's fantastic. The Slap Bet. Been trying to get people to engage me in it, but they just don't want to because they know they'd lose. And when it comes to emotional, it'd have to be two things. Barney's transformation from he was just an ass clown when we first started, and now he settled down, he's getting married, and he has such a broad range of emotions now, but still is that quirky, funny dude. And every time Ted touches upon the whole we drift apart but we come back together thing, because everybody goes through that. So that's pretty much it.
I can't imagine how many things I've taken from this and things that I don't even know that I've taken. I mean, I've sort of written down a lot of things from the years, and I can call back to How I Met Your Mother being the start of that. I do refer to myself as future Tony quite a bit. Definitely picked that up from How I Met Your Mother. And I've done so many different things that are quotes from the show that I've incorporated in my normal speech patterns. The whole "what do you do? Go." Definitely my go-to thing when it comes to like, here's the situation, and how would you go about this? It's just immediately, what do you do? Go. I can't help but salute when people do like major problem or general recourse or something like that. Definitely do that. Any kind of innuendo? Yeah, had to. Have to say that. I've even picked up the right thing that Ted does, and I didn't realize that until rewatching this second time around. Thankfully, I have a better mindset that I don't pick up steak sauce, but that'd be really confusing to people. But I have said boom lawyered, and I don't know if there's a list that I can make about everything, because there's just so much. But that's one of my favorite things about the comedy of the show, has been how quotable it's been, and how their situations can tie into what we've seen and can apply to the things that we've gone through, or we can call back to them later on if we haven't gone through them already. As far as the more emotional stuff, Ted and I have a lot of common. I mentioned this before. There's some things that are different, and a lot of times those things that are different make a big difference on certain episodes. I don't drink. Any episode that he has where it revolves around drinking, I don't see any connection whatsoever. But there's a lot of little things that really taught me over the years, as much as you can kind of say, well, it's a TV show, it shouldn't really teach you anything, it's fake. Taught me that my perspective of things doesn't necessarily need to be true or false for it to have an effect on the outside world. And whenever Ted goes through a situation where he kind of argues with himself about stuff and has to let the universe decide and let things just happen to him, I think back to that when I'm in those positions. There's a good quote that they do in one of the episodes where he's struggling with his Mobius designs that I really took to heart, and that's when he's talking to Lily and he says, but I have to be an architect, that's the plan. I'm 100% a planner when it comes to that stuff, and watching this show has kind of given me this sense of hope that things will work out in the end, and even though it is scripted and it doesn't actually have those powers to do that, that you never know, and sometimes you're too hard on yourself, and you really should just kind of let the world decide and figure it all out. There's a couple other quotes that I think are really fantastic that sum up a lot of the show and my opinions about it. I'm going to read two of them real quick. One of them is a pretty recent one. He says, here's the secret, kids. None of us can vow to be perfect. In the end, all we can do is promise to love each other with everything we've got, because love is the best thing we do. I guess if you're the sentimental type, you're going to believe in that, and that's one of the reasons why you would like this show. And if you're not, that's going to be that divide where you're just like, oh, this show's too sappy. What the hell? Love's the best thing we do and all that. But for us fans, that resonates. That hits us hard. And another great one that really exhibits how the show can balance the serious and the comedic is the episode when they are trying to figure out the best party in New York for the New Year's Eve. And he just kind of spells it out as reality goes. He says to the kids, you probably want to feel bad for your old man at this point in the story. Well, don't. Not every night has a happy ending, but it's all important. All of it was leading somewhere. So if you're ever feeling upset and all that, those kind of things can get you through it. And that's going to be something I really miss about this show. It's tough when you are a fan of a series and, you get invested into these characters and, you laugh along, you cry along, whatever the case may be, depending on the episode. When it comes to the end of it, you're ultimately building towards the end and you want to see the end of it. We all have been wondering for 9 years now what's going to happen when he meets the mother. But it's bittersweet. And I don't know if you guys think the same thing as I do, but now that we're really at the time where this is the last episode coming in less than 24 hours now, I kind of wish that they would just go, nah, psych, we're going to have season 10. You guys think that? Or are you just kind of like, you know what, it's just end when you want to end and,
Oh, I definitely think that. I think it's ridiculous that as much as I love The Big Bang Theory, they're already on board for 10 seasons, and How I Met Your Mother was skeptical for 9, but I could go definitely a season 10, if not much more than that.
Anyone else think one way or the other?
I would like to see a season 10, just because I enjoyed the show that much that I would love to see that many more stories being told and whatnot, to keep seeing the characters develop. But at the same time, I would worry about how much more you can stretch a storyline at the same time, like to the point where it can get ruined. Just because I've seen so many shows like just try and keep going, and it gets to a point where you're like, all right, it has to come to an end. But I don't know. I feel like with this show, it would also be a completely different story at the same time, just because of the route that they've taken with it and like all their interweaving storylines, and there's always something new being brought up or being shown. I could probably go for a season 10 if it I would have confidence in a season 10. But I don't know. I'm also one of those people that's like, I also like to see a good ending. And I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like I would like to see a season 10, and that I would like to see the mother kind of interwoven into the group dynamics a little more, just see where, life goes after this big meeting. But at the same time, I want to look back on the show and love it all the way through and not think, okay, seasons 1 through 9, I'll rewatch those all the time, and then season 10 is just kind of there. I don't want it to really turn into a Scrubs type situation where I love the show for so long, and I like a lot about season 9, but that overall I just kind of ignore it. But not to get too far off track here.
No, that's actually the point that I was going to bring up. Because if it turns into Scrubs, then damn it. Scrubs had such a good ending, and then for some reason kept trotting on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to try to defend that, Days?
I loved season 9 of Scrubs, but it shouldn't have been called Scrubs. It should have been its own little thing off to the side because it was really good, but so many people went in with certain expectations, not the expectation that it was brand new. And that's what I think was the downfall of season 9. If Bill Lawrence was given the freedom to do what he wanted to do, calling it Meds and such, I think it could have survived on its own as like a 3 or 4 season show. But don't do it for How I Met Your Mother. I think that was
You know what, though? With How I Met Your Mother, I have a stronger connection to that than Scrubs. I mean, I do love Scrubs. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, but It's nowhere near in comparison to How I Met Your Mother. If they were to tell me that they were going to just do a series that has a spin-off and it was about just Barney or just Ted or whatever, I would be totally down for that. I'm even, as much as I don't think I'm going to like it, I'm even going to check out How I Met Your Father or How I Met Your Dad. Which one is it called?
I think it's your dad.
It's Dad, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to go well. I think it's going to turn into kind of a Scrubs thing, but
It's gonna go back to the expectations. Fans are going to expect How I Met Your Mother, and they're gonna get something completely different. And
they're
so,
going to expect that 70s show and get that 80s show.
Exactly.
I think that might be the last scene that we see of this show, by the way. I think there might be some kind of a reference. Maybe she moves in, the lead character of How I Met Your Dad, maybe she moves into the old apartment, and the last shot is her saying, like, I don't know, hey, or something like that. And it just kind of goes on from there, if they want to do it that way. But that'll probably be the last thing that we talk about on this podcast. If you guys want to call in, remember, last chance here, 760-512-7247. When it comes to the finale, what do you guys hope is the very end, the final cap-off of the whole thing? I don't want to necessarily see that be the end of it. I really just want to go with everybody is alive, there's no death scenario, and they're all just happy, and they're all sitting in MacLaren's. The end. That's what I want to see. Right?
I would love to see that too. I think I've heard though that Carter Page, Craig Thomas, they've said they've had pretty much the last 10 minutes roughly planned out for years, like almost since the beginning. So that just kind of makes me wonder. I honestly have no idea where they're gonna go, but I'm sure it'll be interesting, possibly heartbreaking. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's much more hilarious than heartbreaking, but there'll probably be a nice balance of both.
There's not going to be a scene where it's like, it turns out that the mother's actually dead, and the reason Ted is telling this story is because he's going to do a murder-suicide pact.
That'll be on the DVD.
Alternate ending.
That'll be post-credits, like in the Avengers movies and stuff.
Or it'll just fade to black. Hey, Dad, what are you doing with that gun? And it just fades to black.
With Don't Stop Believing playing in the background.
Robert, how do you want it to end?
Oh, when I came up with the name for this, it's because that's the last thing I wanted to hear on the show was Last Call, and they're all singing at the bar, and that's my dream scenario. I do think we're going to end up with something really heartbreaking as far as the mother. I hope not, because I don't think, while this show has taken a lot of elements from indie comedies, and they do have a layer of darkness to them, I think for a sitcom on CBS that would be a little too much. And I think ultimately they're going to go with the mother may not be alive, but she loved you kids, blah blah blah, try to make a happy ending out of something heartbreaking. But if I had my way, it would just be they're all sitting around at the bar, everyone's with their soulmate, last call, and that's how you end it.
I hope that it's not last call as a toast to the dead mother. That'll be heartbreaking.
Then I might actually be in tears.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
not
going
ready
to
to
be
start
crying my
crying
eyes
yet.
out. I know it. I'm going to be crying my eyes out from probably like scene number 2. What the hell? I'll probably take a picture of it and put it on the review that I'll be doing. Be like, see? Look at us crying. Like,
You'll be crying once you realize it's the last time you'll hear that theme song for a new episode.
right.
I'm sorry.
Jamie, how do you think that it should end?
I also thought it would probably end at the bar and have it be I don't know, the end, the title of this podcast kind of made me think of that, have it be Last Call MacLaren's, or have them leaving and the camera zoom in on the empty bar, just because I feel like have them leaving and whatnot. I don't know how I would feel about the mother ending up being dead. I think I would probably end up crying more so for Ted than anything else. I really hope they don't take that route. But I hope it ends on a much lighter note than that. I'm not quite sure though.
Dace?
I've got two theories. The first theory is they're all at a church for the wedding, and then Marshall's dad appears and puts his hand on their shoulders and goes, "It's time." And they all stand up and they walk to a light, and everybody in the world is severely disappointed because it's just like Lost. Or they're all brought to trial because of all this ridiculous stuff they've done, and they all go to jail.
Or it all turns out to be inside the mind of some kind of an autistic kid. They pull a St. Elsewhere.
They wake up on the set of 2.5 Men, and the entire time it was Charlie Sheen on a bad trip.
What's his name? He wakes up and the whole thing turns out to be a dream. Dallas. The Dallas thing with in the shower. Patrick Duffy's in the shower the whole time. And that's why he's been narrating it. Turns out Patrick Duffy is Bob Saget.
Yeah, it takes place in the house in San Francisco, and he goes, "Michelle, that's how I met your mother, but she's dead."
Or you find out that the whole time it was just a story based on characters in Ted's life, but he switched them around like a Roseanne type of thing.
He's actually Barney. He's been really subtly telling these kids, like, all these other people could be their mothers.
Yeah, Jesse is Barney, Joey is Marshall. Throwing this stuff out there. Michelle is non-existent. She died in the womb.
By the way, the mother is dead. That would make it 2 sitcoms for Bob Saget with dead wives.
Oh, that's true.
My God.
Oh my god.
Poor Bob Saget.
He's killing them. He's not poor Bob Saget, poor women.
Well, tomorrow is the final episode titled Last Forever. Everybody's going to be watching that. Everybody's going to be laughing and crying and having fun, hopefully not getting too depressed. But even though that's Last Forever, this podcast can't last forever. As we know, nothing good happens after 2 a.m., and we're getting closer to that point right now. So we're going to wrap this up here by going around in a circle one last time to plug other things that we have going on, some shows to check out for, so on and so forth. Dace, up to you.
Okay, follow me on Twitter at The Daceman. Check me out Wednesday nights here on Mega Powers Radio for The Daceman Show. Also, April 13th is the debut of the For Real Movie Club, where we break down Mel Brooks films. And just check out everything I'm writing on fanboysanonymous.com.
Ronnie?
I've currently got nothing in the pipeline just because it's such a busy, stressful time with school. So I'm just going to plug Fanboys in general. Everyone check out Fanboys Anonymous. A lot of great people doing great things. So just keep it here.
Jamie?
Kind of with Ronnie on that one. Been busy with school, so kind of ditto on that. Fanboys, I've been keeping up with that, and I feel like people should definitely check it out. It's got cool stuff. A lot of stuff on comics and just nerdy stuff altogether.
Robert?
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dude Felice. That's DUDEFELICE. And there you can find links to my alternative t-shirts site that I'm doing, and stick to Smark Out Moment, where I've been covering the wrestling TV shows, and I'm going to be writing articles and all that good stuff, and hopefully more to come in the future.
Alrighty, guys. It's been mentioned before, fanboysanonymous.com and megapowersradio.com, which we were doing this on tonight, and we do all of our special episodes. All the other programming on Mega Powers Radio that you can check out. Remember, we have Nerd Court is going to be coming up soon. We've got pretty much every day of the week is going to be covered, so you have no excuses. You can always find some time to check something out. And we're always going to have a review of this upcoming Last Forever episode, both episodes in one, since it's a two-parter. That's going to be up tomorrow, so if you don't want to know what happens, don't check that out. But after you know and you're ready to be spoiled, make sure you check out the review that I'm going to be writing up there. And remember, kids, as Barney said, whatever you do in this life, it's not legendary unless your friends are there to see it. So big thanks to everybody who joined in on this little podcast that we had going on here. I hope everyone enjoys the finale tomorrow night. Thank you guys for listening. 1 ticket to Farhampton, please. See you next time, everybody. No tomorrow.